All right, buddy. I think we are live. Welcome in. Latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Braden. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And look he's here to stay, folks.
What?
The big Orange Vols cousin, Shane. How's it going, brother?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Oh, man. It's been a rainy one over here. It's been a slow one over here. But I'm in a good mood now because we've got a heck of a show lined up for the folks here.
Yeah, we were discussing offline, because yesterday I was like, I got to get ready. Because we got some big stuff coming up. And I was like, you know what? We're gonna go check out this new gym that we signed up for, Mike. And I drove right past it to Freddy's to get me a chocolate milkshake. So so far, not a good start to the diet since I've been home. But man, I tell you what, 2 days in a row of seeing your face has been fantastic. So I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, like I said, we got a heck of a show, Shane. We've got, I forgot all about the voicemail line. So we actually got a voicemail. You can actually text in to the voice line as well. The off season's a perfect time to get featured on the show. That voicemail number 615-965-5152. And again, you can just text in if you don't want to call and you don't want to hear your voice on this podcast. I mean, it's up to you. But so we got a really fun one here, Shane. We're going to talk about our favorite players all time in the SEC at each individual program. But before we get to that, we got a couple of news items here, Shane. I had to hit you with this one because this is making the rounds, and this was I think it made the news for the wrong reason, Shane, but it was old Arch Manning, who, again, he's nothing but hype at this point in time. I hope for his sake that he's amazing at Texas because the hype is just, it's incredible. And at this point, I don't even know if he can reach it, given the hype some people have been giving him, but he ain't going to be in the new video game, Shane. What the hell? He's the first player to kind of come out here and publicly announce, hey, I'm opting out. That was, he didn't actually do it. It was our buddy Anwar Richardson over there from Orange Bloods that broke that news, but the rationale made no sense to me, Shane. Apparently he wants to just focus on getting better, working on his craft, what have you. I have no idea what in the hell being in the video games got to do with any of that.
Yeah, and I tweeted out my sources have confirmed that he is a buzzkill at parties, Mike. Because you're right. It makes no sense. I get the concept. I see where the angle he's coming from, like football's everything and blah, blah, blah. But you're a teammate too, and there's going to be there's a lot of fans that come to support you. And one of the ways they're going to be able to support you is in this video game, potentially taking you to national championships and putting up your highlights. Now we can't do that. So, yeah, I think this is kind of a dumb move in my opinion, but it also feels like the Mannings just never had video games, because it made no sense. I think one of my favorite tweets was somebody was explaining to Arch that he's not actually going to be in the game, So that's kind of a bummer. And I think a bummer for Texas fans because there's several that would love to, like I said, crank a dynasty with them.
Right. But the good news is, Shane, over 10,000 players have already opted into the game, and there's only 11,000 or so FBS players. So 95% are already in. There's still plenty of time for the rest of the maybe Arch will change his mind, maybe realize he doesn't have to physically go into the disc or whatever. But I think
I'm sorry.
I
love one comment. I'm sorry. I'm just going with it. One of my favorite comments is there's going to be a lot of March Annings running around.
Well, I'll tell you who's not laughing, Shane, and that is the other Shane Beamer. We got a clip from him, went viral late last week. I forgot to play this on the last episode, but I just had to play it for anybody that missed it. They hired receivers coach James Coley. He was there for about a week. Next thing you know, James Coley's the receivers coach down at Georgia, going back to he's worked with Kirby Smart once before. But and then they introduced their new wide receivers coach, Mike Furry, he was a Division II head coach. He's played in the NFL, coached in the NFL. But Shane Beamer did not sound too happy about old James Coley ditching him after a week or so on the job.
I didn't think we'd be here again introducing wide receivers coach, but it is what it is. The previous receivers coach made a decision that he felt was best for his family. We collected the $450,000, then some, that we were owed for violating or leaving his contract, and then it allowed us to go out and hire an even better wide receivers coach in my mind. And that's not a knock on anybody, but that's what I feel about this guy right here, that the first time around didn't talk to him just because I knew kind of what I wanted to do with the position, with some of the staff shuffling that I did after the season. And that's what I did previously. But now that we had an actual search for a wide receivers coach, it was a great opportunity to bring someone in to make us better.
Whoa, not a shot, Shade. That sure as hell sounded like a shot, didn't it?
Yeah, I think you did this all week. Like, when you have a different co-host, it's like, you're my favorite co-host. And that's not knocking any other co-host that may not been on this show before. So, yeah, that was definitely a knock and a couple of jabs on the way out. But I expect nothing less from Beamer. But that's again, some people make fun of him, but he tells you how he feels. You're not getting coach speak here. If I'm on that podium, I'm saying the same damn thing, Mike. You know what I'm saying? Like, not only did I get my money back, but we went out, we hired a better guy. So, deuces.
Yeah, I just love that. And we don't have a clip for this one, Shane. There's no clip, but I don't know if you caught this. This was also, I believe, late last week. Steve Spurrier, who he is technically, I don't know if they're paying him or what, Shane, but he's got an office down there. He's officially listed as the ambassador to Florida. I think it's football. It may be athletics, but for sure it's football here. Spurrier was asked about Billy Napier, the direction of the Gators, and here's what Steve Spurrier said in the local paper down there. There's a feeling around the Gators of, what the heck are we doing? There's a lot of questions that I don't have answers to about this organization. Just because we hire the most people doesn't mean you're going to win. All these extra people, I question how much that really helps. Billy is a good guy. He works his tail off. I like Billy, good family man. But we do wish the organization was a little bit more tidy. That's the end of the quote there from Steve Spurrier. But, as soon as someone starts saying, oh, he's a heck of a guy, family man, I'd want my daughter to date him. That's basically, get the hell out of here. We need us a cutthroat Urban Meyer to resurrect this program.
That's exactly what he's saying here, man. And it's almost like we're getting a little glimpse of what could happen down there in Alabama at some point, We just go down the hall and ask Nick Saban for a quick hot take so we could put it out there. So I would, out of all the coaches that are at the Florida Gators right now, this is probably one Billy doesn't want near the facility, but that's what the old ball coach does, man. He's always good for a few good words.
And it didn't help him any, Shane, Billy Napier, that is, that Trevor Etienne, former Florida running back, of course, now he's with Georgia. He went on a Georgia podcast and said, hey, well, here's how I looked at it. I could be running back 2 for a losing team, or I could possibly be the running back 1 and win a national championship in Georgia. I mean, my goodness, Shane, when it rains, it pours. Billy Napier, he needs spring football to get here as fast as humanly possible.
Oh, them Florida Gators are going through it, ain't they? And Billy going to keep his job when he gets 6 wins, when he goes to the bowl, because everybody's told you that they shouldn't win 3 games. And then when he comes out here and wins a bowl, they're going to be like, well, hell, he's better than we thought. So, Yeah, they really are stacking the deck, and it's just one blow after another. But I hate to hear it from kids that have transferred out. It's almost like I don't want to hear what you got to say now because you've already moved on. But again, it is a little bit of a jab, but it's ammunition that maybe later you can use when playing the Georgia Bulldogs. Maybe I don't know. I try to find a positive spin on it.
Well, hey, that's a perfect segue, Shane, for positive spin, because we unfortunately didn't leave his name, but this was a terrific voicemail, and by my photo choice, I'm making an assumption of who this guy, who his team is. He wouldn't say, but I have a pretty good feeling based on what he had to say that he is an Arkansas fan. So again, this is a voicemail, Shane, 615-965-5485. 888-866-5152 if you want to get in on the action. Let's kick it over to the voicemail line.
Cousin Mike, Cousin Shane, what's going on, brother? I just want to call. I had an idea for a show. I was just hoping you could tell us some hope, the bottom tier teams. I won't disclose which team I am just to remain biased, but maybe sell us hope, man, because there's a lot of us down here at the bottom, there's no hope. There's no end of this shithole in sight. So that'd be fun. But also I'd like to say that I wish everybody would stop with this Mizzou bullshit. Okay? It's a one-off, one-hit wonder. I'm telling you right now, they're going to come right down to the SEC basement with the rest of us this season. Love the show. Love what you guys do.
All right, Shane. So I think you could get an idea of why.
Clearly Georgia fan, right? Yeah.
So let's try to give this man hope, and not just him, but I'm basically looking at all the teams, Shane. We just did the over-unders on the last show. Go check that out if you missed it. But anybody that has an over-under under 6, let's try to give some of these hope. And let's start right there with Arkansas. Reason for optimism, because I think he's right. Right now, it seems a little doom and gloom, but I really do think, well, he may not want to hear this because he don't believe in Missouri, but I think Missouri and Ole Miss are evidence that, if you have some solid coordinators, you have a solid quarterback, you hit it heavy in the NIL. I mean, Missouri fans a year ago, this time last year, Shane, they were done with drink. They said, this guy's, what are we doing? We're winning 5, 6, maybe 7 games a year, and that's it. This guy can't get us over the hill. I think Sam Pittman can get you there, but he's proven it. He's won 9 games in a season before. So we need competent quarterback play. We need Bobby Petrino to hit it big. We need the fans to get behind NIL. And it's been down for Arkansas, obviously, for multiple seasons here. But I think it can flip pretty quick, too, particularly if the offense takes a jump like that defense did last year. If they just are competent on both sides of the football, I think they're definitely going bowling this fall.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with it's Bobby Petrino. We said this when he went down to Texas A&M, but guess what? He didn't get down there the reins. He has got the reins there at Arkansas, and I think that's what we got to have, because if you look at what Razorbacks have been able to do or not do, it's usually come down to 1 or 2 key possessions on the offense side of the ball. So, yeah, if this defense still improves, which we're going to get to who are some of our favorite players here in a minute, but that defense side I still think is going to be in good shape. It's the offense. If we can get that production, and I believe Bobby's going to be the spark that they needed, and to give you some hope, you know what I'm saying? So that when you do go into some of those drives, you're not like, well, we're going to screw this one up again.
Yeah, and a lot of one possession losses for Arkansas.
Right.
At some point, that has got to flip. So maybe this is the year where you win more of those than you actually lose. And that could be the difference. And again, Missouri they were right here. They were picked. I can't remember exactly what their over-under was, but it couldn't have been much higher than 6 last year, and they won 11 ball games. Now, that's not realistic for everybody to make that kind of jump, but I'm just saying it can happen. How about Florida, Shay? A team we just kind of buried all there. Not really us, but Spurrier did, and Trevor Etienne. But Gators, what's there to be optimistic about when it comes to the Gators? And I think, Shane, it's if we could just get an average defense, which is not asking a lot. With the talent you got down there, they attacked it via the portal. They added a 5-star defensive lineman, added some other pieces. I think with the progress we have seen on the offensive side of the football under Billy Napier, that the offense wasn't a problem last year. It was the defense. If we just have a capable defense, we can catch fire with this schedule that we have right out the gate. I mean, there's no reason we can't be maybe even 5-0 if things break right to start the year. And if you're starting 5-0, you're probably gonna smash that over because you're gonna catch a couple of these teams late in the year. That would be my optimistic spin on the Florida Gators.
Yeah, optimistic is again, everybody's doubting you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes that lets the pressure off a little bit. Pressure's now on Miami. Pressure's now on Texas A&M. Pressure's now in Tennessee. And I think that's important because you can make a couple mistakes and still be in a football game. I think the problem with their defense was just the big plays. Big plays on third downs. It's situational football that they just, for some reason, made the biggest mistakes last season. They cleaned that up, brother. They got a couple, similar to Arkansas, a couple of really close games. If they would have beat Mizzou, if they would have beat Arkansas, what would we be saying coming into this season? Maybe not hot seat talk anymore. Maybe we'll have the old ball coach shitting on your coach down the hallway here. So I think that's kind of where we're at with the Florida Gators. But guess what? You got a capable quarterback. You got one of the best quarterbacks in the country right now. A guy that nobody, including myself, had trust in going into last season, and now I'm looking like, well, look who you got returning this year. So a capable quarterback goes a long ways in the SEC.
Yeah. How about Mississippi State, Shane? They're over under 4.5 wins. What is to be optimistic? I think it's all about Jeff Lebby and that offense, Shane, because everywhere Jeff Lebby's been the last 5-6 years, I mean, elite quarterback play has followed. He's worked under Kiffin. He's worked under Heupel. I think that's the blueprint for success in Starkville, and that's exactly what they got in Oxford and Knoxville right away, was fun offenses. Now, defense probably going to be a struggle, but if you're scoring 40 points a game, you don't have to hold people to 10. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you could just get to the quarterback, force turnovers, be competitive on the defensive side of the ball, with that high-flying offense, you just got Blake Shapen, quarterback transfer from Baylor. They got a former Oregon quarterback commit, Michael Van Buren, to enroll early as a freshman. So I think the future under center with Jeb Lebby engineering that offense, and they were able to retool the offensive line, attract some transfer receivers. There's a real shot, Shane. Day one, Mississippi State goes from just absolutely pathetic on offense last year to one of the more fun and explosive offenses in the entire SEC this year.
Yeah, I think that's, if you're selling optimism, Mike, you're not going to win an SEC championship this year. You're not going to make it to a college football playoff, but there's going to be flashes through these games, and you're going to see optimism just in the fan base, because you're going to say, hey, if we have the right pieces, we may have something to work with here. And I think that's the key. Just be fun, be exciting, something they've not been in a while. And when you're watching them play, guess what? You're recruiting. You're saying, hey, man, transfer to Mississippi State. You're going to play now. And look what style of offense you're going to play. That's why the kids are going to Tennessee. That's why the kids are going to LSU's and Georgia's. They're fun. It's exciting. There's a lot of points being put up. So, yeah, I think that's the key here. It's just you're selling the future for Mississippi State, but along the way, you're going to catch one or two teams off guard. And I think that's why you hit the over on that number we were talking about yesterday.
Now, how about South Carolina, Shane? Over-unders 5.5. So they're right there at bowl eligibility. They've done it 2 of the past 3 years. And I know this is a tough sell to make, Shane, but I'm trying to make it because you lose Spencer Rattler, you lose Xavier Legette, 2 outstanding players. How are we possibly going to be better? Well, maybe it's just a little bit more of a team, or rallying again, kind of like you were saying with Florida. Everybody's doubting you. People are not all people, but a lot of people are already looking ahead to who's the next coach going to be after Shane Beamer. Get back to that Beamer ball. Tougher on defense. They're number 2 in the SEC, Shane, on returning production on the defensive side of the ball. So I think they could be a lot better on that side. And man, every time we mention the Gamecocks, Shane, they are just over the moon on this Lenoris Sellers, their quarterback. Let's see what he brings to the table. If he's as elite as they say, South Carolina could be one of the biggest surprises in the SEC this fall.
Yeah, he's a game changer. I think that's why people are excited about it, because there was a lot of times that that offensive line last year struggled, and Spencer, as athletic as he is, can only do so much. Goggles, on the other hand, he can make something. He could take a 3rd and 3 that looks like a dead play, and then all of a sudden he's moved the chains just because of his legs. You got balance now in the backfield with Rocket Sanders coming in. Something we saw a little bit of Anderson kind of becoming that dude late in the season, but there was no balance throughout the entire year, and I think that's what hindered South Carolina on that side of the ball. I think you're going to have a little bit more balance this year because, again, like you said, it's going to be more of a committee.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, Shane.
Breaking news?
No.
Arch is back in?
Well, I think we just keep going because we're recording, and I'll just upload this. But I don't think we're live.
Really?
I don't know because I'm looking at all these comments, and they're saying, "Why are they so late? Why are they so late?" And it says we're live. It says there are 460 something people in here.
Yeah,
So
we're probably
live
on Facebook.
somewhere.
You know what I think it is, and I maybe because I mentioned IT yesterday or something like that, but there was like a whole bunch of hacking going on or something. My wife was complaining about Facebook being down, and some of these social media outlets have been kind of messed with today. So I don't know if that has anything to do with us, but maybe it's the particular platform they're on or trying to watch. YouTube was one of them too. So,
Well, let me just double check. Let me see if we're live on Twitter or anything.
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Who knows, man?
Yeah.
At least it's the off season, you know.
All right, last one, and I don't know how to sell this shit. I really don't. But we gotta let's be as optimistic as we can. Vanderbilt, they're over under 2.5. How can we? Not that we're not that we're gonna make a bowl game or anything, but they have shown a commitment to NIL that was not there previously. That's about what I got. I don't know. How can you sell me on some Vanderbilt?
Well, there's a lot of nice restaurants in the area, you know, the housing, plenty of hotels. It seems like every time I go there, there's 3 new hotels in the area, you know. So at least if you didn't have a fun football weekend, you got something accomplished that weekend going downtown on the Strip. Nashville's a cool area. And, Mike, I say all that jokingly. Vanderbilt deserves better, and I don't know how many times I got to say that. And optimism, the sad part is just winning one SEC game. And looking at their schedule last year, I didn't think they had an opportunity to do it. This year, I'm a little leery myself. But again, you're always going to be the underdog. You're always going to be the trap game potential. And I think you just do what Coach Lee did 2 years ago and just get this roster to buy into each other and realize that there's, you know, I felt like there was a little bit of eyes and me's last year, and some of those guys are gone. You know, and maybe that's what a team like Vanderbilt needs is a whole bunch of dudes doing it together. You know what I'm saying? We don't need this guy or that guy, you know, because coming into that Hawaii game last year, that's what we did. We were like, well, they got this cat. They got this cat. This is a year that Vanderbilt takes that big step forward, and I think they took 2 steps back. Maybe that team committee is what they need. Man, if you can find a way to make a bowl game or just beat one freaking SEC team like you did 2 years ago, you beat 2, you know, I think that would be the optimism you're looking for.
Right. All right, Shane. So again, shout out cousin Trey. He's the one that gave us this question. He wanted a show topic on our favorite SEC players from each school. Could be historic, could be current, could be anything in between. And I believe Shane's got us double covered with all time and current. I did about half the assignment. That's why I ended up going to Tennessee, Shane. I only did about half the assignment whenever they gave out homework. But you ready to dive into it?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right, Shane. So how about just going in alphabetical here? Alabama, favorite player of all time. For me, Albert Means. Put him on probation. Tennessee got in all that trouble. So I've always had a special place in my heart for Albert Means. But no, seriously, Shane. I think I always loved Jalen Hurts, man. And the fact, you know, my list may be a little different than other people because I'm not necessarily saying – because he was outstanding. He won SEC Offensive Player of the Year as a true freshman. He was outstanding. But I'm not necessarily saying he's the best player of all time. I'm just my favorite because that's what Trey was asking us. And I loved how he handled that whole Tua situation. You know, he didn't complain. He didn't transfer. He even came back after Tua won him the national championship, 2nd and 26, what have you. I mean, I think 99% of elite college quarterbacks would have packed their bags and got the hell out of there. And now eventually he did, but that was because Tua had multiple years of eligibility. You know what I mean? So I just think the way he handled that, how elite of a player he is, and how he's seemingly never talked bad about Nick Saban or Alabama or even Tua, always kind of endeared Jalen Hurts to me.
Yeah, and this was kind of, I'm with you here, Mike, because I went round and round. It's like, I'm not saying that this is the best particular player to ever play at Alabama. I'm not saying that. You know, they've had some dudes, but when I think of Alabama and I'm thinking of a particular person, you know, that's kind of where I went, you know, and I went through them all. I went from that big ass Cody blocking that field goal from it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? There, I went him and King Henry and all those guys, but I landed on Devonta Smith. The reason I did that is particularly his final season, winning a Heisman and the fashion he did it. He was just unguardable, unstoppable. It's like if Disney decided to make a movie of a wide receiver, he was the star in it. Just the way it started, the way it ended, it was just a magical season. And he did it quietly. You know, he didn't get out here like some of these other guys, like Keyshawn, give me the damn ball. He was never that guy. He was all about Alabama. He was all about winning. But he just defied the odds, and to go out and win the first Heisman as a wide receiver. I mean, that I'll think about it forever. He kind of got lost, you know, but I think 10, 15, 20 years from now, when we're looking back at the all-time greats like Julio Jones and all these cats that come through Alabama, how can you not think of Smith and the fantastic season he had?
The Slim Reaper. That sounds like you, Shade.
Yeah. That was my nickname in middle school.
All right, how about Arkansas, Shade? I have a feeling we're going to have the same one here, but I'm going Darren McFadden. I mean, should have won a Heisman Trophy, just an elite player, and you know they're a large part of why they. I think they were the originators of the Wildcat, you know, just because he was just so damn valuable, and just you had to get the ball in Derek McFadden's hands any way you possibly could, and it was just dynamic when they had him, Felix Jones, Peyton Hillis, all at the same, Matt Jones, all during that same era. I mean, that was a wild time to be a Razorback fan, I have to imagine.
Yeah, Run DMC's on my list too. And I mean, just because the guy was just unreal. Just unreal. 3 years, never less than 1,100 yards rushing. I mean, I think what was the stat I saw? Like he averaged like 6 yards a carry every time. Think about that. You average 6 yards a carry every time you touch the football. And guess what? You're getting the football a lot in Arkansas. And that's what happened with DMC. He'll always be, in my opinion, the best running back to play college football from Arkansas especially. But, yeah, just an absolute beast.
Mm-hmm. All right, how about Auburn? Where are you going to go on this one, Shane?
Yeah, a lot of dudes, man. A lot of dudes. I mean, you could go back. A lot of great running backs, but I go back to as long as he's not at a youth football camp fighting somebody, I'm going Cam Newton, because that guy is, and I don't even know why you think you could take him. You know, it's like, Cam, I don't care if Cam is 60 years old. I still ain't going to fight him, because you know he's going to beat the shit out of you. But that is a particular guy that took over football. You think about some seasons and that BCS championship he won, it was like, I don't think it was the best football team that was in college football that year, but he made it the best football team because that's what he brought to the game. So yeah, I'll always think of him when I think of Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, he was just a freak athlete, and I think you said it right, Shane, because he had Nick Fairley, who was dominant on the defensive line, but obviously not on his side of the football. But I don't know that he had another NFL skill player. Maybe an offensive lineman, but no skill players on that team. That was just a time, and probably the only time, Shay, that I can think of where a guy literally basically took over college football, and there was scandal there, but that kind of added to the pressure. And remember, there was a brief time where they like basically made it. I can't remember if they made him ineligible to win the Heisman, or they took his Heisman, and then they had to give it back. I think they made him ineligible for like 12 hours, then they made him eligible again. I mean, it was just a wild scene down there, having to go to Alabama, getting down big, rallying Auburn on the road in Tuscaloosa, winning the Heisman, winning the national championship. I almost went Cadillac. We love Cadillac, but Cam Newton is the right answer, I think.
Yeah.
All right, how about Florida, Shane? It probably pays you to even come up with a Gator. Who's your favorite all-time Florida Gator?
Oh, favorite. I don't like that word. Is there another word we can use for Florida here? Dude, again, a lot. I mean, you could throw a dart and land on 5 different guys that are just absolute freaks down there. But, I think this one kind of grew on me after I saw the documentary that came out, Swamp Kings, and that was just Tim damn Tebow.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is Florida Gators. I mean, you Google Florida Gators, you can scroll down, there's a picture of Tim Tebow. You look Tim Tebow and there'll be Florida Gators three pages down. So it's just they're entwined together and will always be at the hip there. That was just a guy that we knew was going to be good. We kept waiting for him to get on the field, and when he did not let us down. And the fact he was able to keep those dudes together, you want to talk about a team captain. And the guy, I mean, he's just he's a saint now, I mean, he literally glows. If you ever see him in real life, it's almost like there's a spotlight on him. Tim Tebow is bigger than football, so that's my dude there.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said that because I never quite thought of it quite like that, Shane, but that is true. The fact that he was able to keep those guys together, given all the issues there that was omitted from that documentary, of course. But, I think Tim Tebow should have won 2 Heisman trophies.
Yep.
I realize they didn't go back-to-back national champs, but they did win 2 while he was there. He was a key part in the second one, of course, and more of a role player on the first one. But I do think Percy Harvin maybe was a better overall talent, but with the intangibles, the toughness, the leadership, it's got to be Tim Tebow for me. Tim Tebow, one of the best of all time. And if I had seen him play, I probably would have considered him, Shane. But I got his book here for a reason. I love Steve Spurrier. You know what I mean? Like just a mouth of an SEC coach like no other. He's a very close runner up for me.
Yeah.
All right, how about Georgia, Shane? A lot of dogs to pick from, but it's probably a little bit off the radar for you. But I went Todd Gurley. I don't know if you would anticipate me saying that, but I loved watching him run. Just such a beast that seemed to get better as a game went on. And it didn't even matter if you kind of contained him, for the first half or so. The second half was going to be dominated by Todd Gurley. I don't know that I'd ever seen a man that big, that fast, that just had it all. And I always thought, it was wrong how they did him with making him ineligible for something that is completely legal now. I hate to see that. There's a lot of all-time greats, so many current guys you could go with. But give me Todd Gurley for Georgia.
Boy, your dog's going crazy over him dogs, ain't he? I went around here because, like you said, I think that's the problem. There's been too many good running backs for Georgia. If you just had a Nick Chubb or a Todd Gurley or a Herschel Walker, I mean, you could probably pick one of these guys. And I'm not going to go as far back because it's not like I ever watched Herschel Walker. So, I can't really say that he's on my list, but I think of individuals that stand out. And, one of the guys I absolutely could not stand growing up was David Pollock. That was a guy that you had to scheme around, so I definitely considered him there for a second. I thought Brock Bowers is another one. Here's a guy that could be the greatest tight end to ever play college football. So I went that route. The only other one, and I know I'm kind of casting a wide net here, was Jordan Davis. And I just love him as a person and just an absolute beast on the field. So if I was leaning toward the 3, I'm going more toward Brock Bowers because, again, I know it's new. He's just here, but 10, 15, 20 years down the road when we're talking about the best tight end, he's a name that's going to keep popping up.
Shane, this is just, I got to just tell you a little behind the scenes real quick. I mean, we are 35 minutes in, and the YouTube community is rolling strong. They are convinced you are stuck at the Waffle House. Jeff here says, Shane's stuck. They won't let him leave till the next grill guy shows up. But I mean, they're having a time just making fun of us for not showing up, even though we are here. They just can't see us. So hopefully they get a laugh out of that if they're able to watch us back as soon as we're done here.
I got credits at the Waffle House jukebox thing. I didn't know that, back in the day, that was we'd have some cold beers, and then after we'd go hit a Waffle House, and now they got this digital. Everything's digital, which is part of the reasons we're not on freaking YouTube right now, because we got a little too crazy with the technology. but I accidentally spent $50. I was meaning to do $5, and my fat thumbs went over, and now so I got $50 at this thing. And what's crazy is I can sync up to it right now. And so what I'm just if anybody's in Morristown Waffle House, they probably want to know who the hell keeps playing Elvis Presley. It's this guy. Sometimes I just like to burn them coins.
Yeah, Andrew says, my screen's acting up. Something, it comes on then goes away. Is there internet manual transmission? Can't work a clutch. I mean, they got some wild conspiracies over there. They're telling us to like the pay. I mean, they're having a good time. But nonetheless, Shane, moving on, Kentucky. I wonder if we'll have the same one here. I kind of feel like we will. But, hey, I got his statue up here for a reason, Shane. Jared Lorenzen, my all-time favorite Kentucky Wildcat. I don't know, as the SEC gets more and more elite, not that he wasn't elite. He was a hell of a player. He wasn't just some sideshow or anything. But it just, I don't know, it feels like we'll just literally never see another guy in the SEC like Jared Lorenzen, the hefty lefty.
He was inspiration to all fat people. I mean, I wanted to play quarterback, but my coach wanted me to play left guard. It's like, and I could argue that maybe I was a better quarterback at the time. But I liked the hefty lefty. I loved him. I think he was, like I said, inspiration. It was hard when he was good against Tennessee, because obviously still a rivalry. But if I look back, him and Josh Allen was another one that kept coming to my mind. I was like, that's another dude that's just an absolute freak. You had to plan your game around, but I think the hefty lefties, he's always going to have a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Shane, how about next on the list here, LSU? A lot of elite players all over the NFL and big-time college players, of course, that have come through Baton Rouge. But when I think of LSU, Shane, the one guy that stands out, who's just, we talked about Cam Newton, how he took over. Joe Burrow did that in a different way. I mean, he had tons of help, but he just put up numbers. I don't know that we'll ever, well, maybe we will now that they're playing 16, 17 college football games potentially, but in the 15-game season that he played, I don't know we'll ever see someone put up, what was it, like 60, 70 touchdowns that Joe Burrow did. Joe Burrow, to me, is my favorite LSU Tiger of all time.
Favorite LSU Tiger. And again, I love Joey Burrow. I love that whole team. I mean, it was just a fun team to watch. But when I think of number 7, the first name that comes into my mind is the Honey Badger. And that was just a dude that was just relentless on defense, relentless on special teams. He was just all over the damn place. And you talk about Swiss Army knife. That's the guy I always like. I knew he was destined for great things in the next league. So, and he has, and he's performed well. He's made a shit ton of money. But that's where I kind of went. Him, Leonard Fournette, because you got to remember at that time, that was like peak college football for me, man. And it seemed like Leonard Fournette highlight was on just about every, and every running back that came in after was constantly compared to Leonard Fournette. So I love Joey, but again, that was a special team. Look how many people they put into the league. Individual, I got to go with the Honey Badger.
Yeah, that's a great selection, Shane. And one of the greatest what-ifs of all time if he didn't get booted right before his final season there. Could have been something magical. How about Jeff here in the comments? I don't know if he can't see us, he can't hear us, Shane, but he says, anyone have a Twitter way to contact them or anything like that? Here's Shane's cell phone number. It's 423 58. What are they calling in saying, dude? All right, how about Ole Miss, Shane? This one, you may have not forgotten this guy, but I'm curious if he's on your list here. Not only my favorite Ole Miss Rebel, but one of my favorite all-time SEC players. And he was on a terrible team, too. Patrick Willis from the linebacker that's now in, I believe, just made the NFL Hall of Fame, Shane. But you talk about an elite defender. Patrick Willis, I believe his senior year, Shane, he was one of those guys that broke his hand and he had to wear the club.
Yeah.
Still led the SEC in tackles with a freaking club on one of his hands. I mean, they just don't make them like they used to. And when you say that, you think of guys like Patrick Willis, just a tank of a man at linebacker. And he played for Coach O. He's about the only good thing Ole Miss had going during that era, but he's an all-timer.
Yeah, and mine's a little different because, like you said, this was not a good football team, but it could have been, and I think with the right situation and definitely right coaching, this could have been an exciting team. That 2018 roster, brother, A.J. Brown, Metcalf, Knox. I mean, they had
Chad Kelly.
No.
Or was that after Shea Patterson?
That was that. What's his name? Temu.
Jordan Tiamu.
Yeah, Tiamu. Yeah. So I mean, it was a hell. Elijah Moore. He was. I mean, that team. You give Lane Kiffin that roster right now. I mean, as good as the receiving core is now, there wasn't a better receiving core than what they were working with back in 2018. And A.J. Brown led that. If you were building a perfect wide receiver, he looked just like him. He played just like him. And I know some of these other guys kind of stole a little bit of the thunder, but A.J. Brown is still one of the best, if not the best wide receiver to ever come through that university. So that's who I went with.
Yeah, I like that one. All right, how about Mississippi State, Shane? I'm curious to know if we'll have the same one here, but I love me some Dak, Shane.
Yeah.
I mean, his story's great, too. From Louisiana, wanted to go to LSU. Les Miles told him, maybe you make a good tight end, But no, he went to Mississippi State. He played for Dan Mullen, one of the all-time greats in the SEC and at Mississippi State, and now he's doing it with the Dallas Cowboys. That was just a special, special time to be a Mississippi State fan. Of course, reaching number one his junior season. It's hard to do better than Dak Prescott.
Well, I think that's it. The first and only time they were at that number one spot was with him under center. And you thought in the back of your mind, what if they pull off this magical run, Mississippi State had a hell of a run, and it was all because of Dak coming in the year before, the Egg Bowl. You remember that one? Come down to the wire. I mean, he was just an absolute beast. And again, people had turned him away. This is a guy that came from nowhere, and Mullins gave him an opportunity, and Mississippi State will always love him for it.
Yeah. Sandman says, just saw Cousin Shane jogging through my neighborhood here in Austin. And Cotton says, we better get some free little Debbies out of this mishap. So they're still commenting. They can't see us apparently, but this still, I appreciate them hanging out here 45 minutes into the show. All right, how about Missouri, Shane? A lot of interesting options here. Mm-hmm. Because you're kind of Mr. Mizzou, I'm going to let you go first on this one.
Or there's a bag of chips right above your head, Mike. The best ever is on the roster right now. I'm sold. I'm convinced. There's been a lot of great Mizzou players come through, but we're watching something special right now. Luther is an absolute monster. He's a beast. People, I mean, they have to scheme around him. That makes the other players better. This is a guy that's going to dominate on Sunday. Probably going to be wearing a gold jacket if he keeps it up at this rate. So when I'm talking about, like I said, like even AJ building that perfect receiver, he's right there above you wearing the number 3.
Yeah, and I love that selection. That's my selection too, Shane, but for a slightly different reason, because you're right. He's outstanding. I think he's the best player in the SEC. He may be the best player in the country next year, but that's not the reason Luther Bird's my favorite, Shane. It's because, and I've talked about this before, but, he went to Mizzou when he had the options to go play at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley when they had that rolling. He had the option to go play for Kirby Smart, which they obviously, have it rolling. But, I mean, I think he could have went to Ohio State. I think Alabama was among his offers. I mean, he could have went anywhere. He stayed home, Shane. Yeah. And he was a big, big, big part of this turnaround at Mizzou. And if they do what we think they can this year, win 10, 11, hell, maybe even 12 games if everything breaks right. I mean, I think he is setting a standard that Missouri Not that they're going to win 11 games every year, but it's they've completely changed the narrative. They were essentially. I'm trying to think, where South Carolina is right now, where their fans are questioning what is the future, what can we do, to where now they're saying, you better damn respect us because we just won 11. We're going to do even better this year. And the turnaround came quick. And I think Luther Burden was a huge part of doing that. And after he committed, they've had a lot of transfers that are from the state or the area that have come back to Mizzou. They just signed the number one defensive lineman in the entire country, Williams Anawari. They got him in part because he's seeing what Luther Burden's doing. So I think, he's a agent for change for Missouri. Yeah. And that's why Luther Burden will always stand out to me. All right, how about Oklahoma, Shay? We're including Oklahoma in here. I know we've not watched them in the past like we have the rest of these, but there's enough great Sooners out there. There's got to be one on the top of your list.
Yeah, and probably not for the right reason, but I'm giving it to Baker Mayfield, Mike. I think because you're right. Obviously there's been a lot of great players. One of my favorite players to get in the NFL when I was playing fantasy football was Adrian Peterson. They've had some dudes come through Oklahoma. They've had a lot of talent go on to the league. But I'm looking at a guy that I actually hated to play against. You just knew he was going to find a way to win. And that's what I think every time I see Oklahoma, it's the first face that pops up in my mind. Him making fun of us there at Neyland Stadium on his way out after a victory we should have had. But yeah, I'm going with Baker here.
Shay, they're saying maybe they bet 7 p.m. Central Time. Andrew says this weekend we spring forward, so this is going to be messed up till media days, is what he says. And John says, I'm 46 minutes late, and I'm earlier than they are.
Gosh.
How about this one, Shade? Hey, nothing wrong with Baker Mayfield. I mean, he's an all-timer for a reason, but I went with Adrian Peterson because I loved watching him run. Texas native, if I'm not mistaken, had the option to go to Texas, spurn the in-state Longhorns for them Oklahoma Sooners, and he was a huge part of their success in the early 2000s. But as good as some of the players they've had, I don't know that they've had, at least in my lifetime, as talented an overall player as Adrian Peterson. And of course, he went on to the NFL and had huge success, but he was just sensational in college.
Well, I mean, they've had dudes. Kyler Murray was another one that popped up. He was really good. It's just, mine's more personal, and just the fact that we lost to him, so that never feels good, never sits well, and then you still see him just kind of still surviving in the NFL. You don't just survive. You're a good athlete. You're a hell of a player. So, and Baker will be, and always remembered as one of the all-time greats for Oklahoma.
All right, how about South Carolina? Who you got for the Gamecocks, Shane?
South Carolina. This was a tough one. I almost went Lattimore, but I pivoted. I think Connor Shaw. Just because, was it the best South Carolina team ever? Nah, probably not, but he made it. You know what I'm saying? You talk about one of the toughest dudes to ever play the football game. Yeah. I mean, this guy is Columbia, and it still is. That's. I think you were talking about Luther, an ambassador for a university, and every time I think of South Carolina, I think of Connor Shaw and everything that he's done for that program and will continue to do for that program. Just an absolute beast, and it's funny when you hear the stories of his teammates talking about him. Basically just pieced together like the what's that that robot man. They just keep adding on pieces. That's kind of, I don't know. That's old.
The Bionic Man.
Yeah. He's kind of like the Bionic Man there in South Carolina. So I went Connor Shaw here.
I considered Lattimore. I considered Shaw. Maybe a little bit of a curveball, Shane, but this guy was fun on and off the field. I went Steven Garcia, who he got booted by Spurrier, but hell, he's got maybe the best win in school history. Beat number 1 Alabama and Williams-Brice. And that just always kind of stands out to me for one of the all-time moments of South Carolina. And I know, like you said, Connor Shaw, back-to-back-to-back 11-win seasons. That may never be topped again in Columbia. So nothing wrong with Connor Shaw, but I certainly think Connor Shaw is better, and he was more productive than Steven Garcia. But just the wild man in him, the Brett Favre in him. You know, I've always been fascinated by guys that burn bright and kind of explode here a little bit. You know?
Yeah. And you know what it's sad? It's like there's some guys that you think of Vladimir, for example. You know, I mean, that's a guy that if all went well would have been an easy one. Clowney, if all went well, like none of that drama toward the tail end, this would be an easy one to pencil in. But it's sometimes it's the guys that stick in there, you know, that play. You know, I think of like Allen with Kentucky. I was reading up on him. You know, that's a guy that never missed a game. You know what I'm saying? And he is always going to be an ambassador for that school. So yeah, sorry, that's my little tangent on why I'm picking some of these dudes.
How about Tennessee? I'll let you go first here, but I'm very fascinated to see where you go here.
This one's not fair, and I guarantee you, if you're listening, they're probably not on your list. But this is just mine growing up. I was always a huge fan of two guys, one on the offense, one on the defense. The one on the offense, can you guess it? Little local from around here?
Spencer.
No, I love Spencer. Don't get me wrong. I love Spencer Riley because obviously he's from our county.
Yeah.
But it was Leonard Little growing up.
Okay.
Right downtown in Morristown. I just, something about him, I'm sorry, Leonard Little. Little Man Stewart.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to correct you. I was just going to let you go.
I love them all. There's not a bad Tennessee ball. Little Man Stewart was always my dude. And we used to play football out in the yard, and John would pick him, my brother, you know, the Flying Hawaiian. You know, you always pick like a guy you're going to mimic. He was always Little Man Stewart. And I don't know. There was something about that. Going to football games and watching them, it's somebody that's from down the street from me. It always was super special. But on the defense side, man, it was Big John Henderson for me, man. Yeah. And if you ever went to the game and Big John made a big tackle, they played over the loudspeaker, Big John. And I was like, man, I'd give anything to be 6'9" or 6'8" or however big he was. He just did not seem like a real human being to me, and that's why I always loved him. So Big John Henderson, Little Man Stewart, Little. If you listen, I'm always a huge fan of him. I follow him on Twitter. He's a great guy too. Al Wilson. I could go down the list, Mike, but those are my two.
Wow, very interesting. No Peyton Manning, not even a mention there, huh?
No, well, it's not that I don't love Peyton Manning. Everybody knows Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Everybody's got, but you know, when his family members are opting out of college football games. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love Peyton Manning. You're talking about a great ambassador for the sport.
Right.
I'll always love number 16, but it's just going to camps and stuff. You know, you got around some of these other ones. I was never near Peyton Manning. You know. Right.
No, I got you. Well, you mentioned a lot of guys, Shane. You didn't even mention my guy, so I was happy you didn't. But I'm going Eric Berry. He was always my favorite. Just an elite defensive back, returner. He did it all. Pick sixes. One of the toughest son of a guns we've ever had in the SEC. Shane, one time I saw he and Tim Tebow collide on the football field, and I half expected the stadium to explode. You know what I mean? Like it was the immovable force meets the unblockable force, whatever they say. But I mean, he's just in his own league, in my mind, in what an elite player is. And he was on some bad football teams too. He was on Dooley teams, Kiffin teams, and all that. But he stood out as one of the most elite players I've ever seen, not only in a Tennessee uniform, but an SEC uniform. So Eric Berry is my answer.
He made special teams fun again, too. You know, it's like you're almost happy that they scored against you, so you at least get to see a kickoff return or, you know, or a punt return. You know, Eric Berry was an absolute beast.
Yep. All right. How about for Texas? I'm curious to hear what you got for them.
Again, I got two guys. My list is probably a little longer than it should be, Mike. But I think of Ricky when he was down there. You remember, was it him and Ron Dane?
Yeah.
They were going back and forth at that time. It's like you had to be in either one of those camps. And there was something about Ricky I've always loved. But best player, I went with quarterback Vince Young. When they won that national championship, they won it with him. And it's like he opened up the eyes of college football coaches everywhere, saying, hey, this is the route we need to take to win football games. It's almost like he changed the game a little bit, so, or at least how to scheme or protect for it. So I'm going Vince here.
Yeah, I mean, there's no wrong answer when you're talking Vince Young and Ricky Williams, but I did go Ricky Williams, Shane, and it went to that point you were talking about, because that's when I really started to pay attention and fall in love with actual college football. I have you to thank for getting me into the video game to get me into the sport. But yeah, I mean, it was just phenomenal watching Ricky Williams run the football. And for some reason, I know this got nothing to do with him playing. It's got nothing to do with Texas, but it's just burned in my memory, Shane. Remember when the Saints drafted him and they put him in a dress, and it was Mike Dick, it was Marion Ricky. I mean, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. But beyond that, Ricky Williams, I mean, just a standout. I did consider Vince Young because obviously we talked about Cam Newton, a little bit of Vince Young action there to where he kind of willed Texas over what ESPN was hyping as maybe Southern Cal, the best team of all time. They didn't even win the damn game thanks to Vince Young, but he sure as hell had a lot of help around him.
I think maybe that's it, because everyone hated USC so much,
Right.
Like I did. And it's almost like the Patriots, in the 2000s there. It's like you just want them to lose because they win all the time. So, that was a big one for a lot of fans out there.
Yeah. All right, how about Texas A&M? Who you got for the Aggies?
Man, this one's easy, and I'm sure he's on there, but give me Johnny Football. Oh, brother. There's never been more entertaining quarterback to ever play the game. It's just I love the gunslinging. I love the just taking chances and the big upsets. It's just he is college football, and now you're getting to hear some of the stories from behind the scenes. He's just I'm falling more and more in love with this kid the more I hear from him.
Right, yeah, you're right. He's the easy answer. And I was actually reading something just this morning, Shane, about Nick Saban talking about Johnny Manziel, and just basically said, he's the only quarterback that I could never prepare for, because what he was just he had no tendency. His only tendency was he has no tendencies. So what you saw on film, it was completely different. One play, one series, one game after the other, because he was street balling out there. And there's just simply no way to prepare for that. He killed Alabama both times he faced them. And you're right. I mean, we are 10 years removed from that, over 10 years now removed from that, and he's still making waves. He's still doing all these podcasts and documentaries, and it's as engaging now as it was then. I mean, it's so unique how that is. And I don't know, quite frankly, Shane, that we'll ever see one quite like Johnny Manziel. I hope we will, but I always see these high school, 5-star quarterbacks, and I'm like, ooh, he's got a little Manziel to him, And then he gets to college, and he can't even get on the field. You know what I mean? Like, so I need to stop doing that to myself, because I don't know that there'll ever be another one quite like Johnny.
Yeah, we need to see one of them kids smoking a cigarette on the sideline. Say, hey, that's our guy right there. Give him the football.
All right, last but not least, Vanderbilt. Who's your all-time favorite Commodore?
I went around here because Cutler was the first one that popped in my mind, but I went with Matthews instead. Yeah. This is a guy that was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, he didn't blow you away with the amount of touchdowns because it was Vanderbilt, but it seems like every freaking game he had 10 receptions and 100 yards every single game. And to know that that's the guy that's getting the football, he still walks away with 100 yards. So, yeah, give me Matthews on the Vanderbilt here.
Yeah. Hey, appreciate your cousin Rick. He gave us $10. I don't even know that he can see the show, but
Hey!
he's still giving us money. So we do appreciate you. He says Johnny Football. So that is the correct answer. But yeah, I think for Vanderbilt, it's funny you went there because that's exactly where I was going. Shane, Jordan Matthews, standout receiver. And I don't know if I've told this story before, but one game just stands out to me. It was, I believe it was against Ole Miss, and it was one of those slants, across the middle. He just got his head hit really hard. I mean, it'd be an illegal hit today. He's vomiting on the sideline. I was like, my goodness, like we may not see him for a couple weeks. Next series, he's in there making the critical catch to win a football game. I mean, that sums up Jordan Matthews, an elite player in college, and then of course went on to the NFL. He was, I believe he was top 10 in the all-time SEC receivings, and I think receiving yards there for a while, Shane. So Jordan Matthews,
I think he got third. I think he's third right now.
Yeah,
but he's still up there.
I mean, he was such a beast there in college football.
Yeah.
So and that it's kind of sad that we're sitting here saying that because I'm like yearning for the days where Vanderbilt could threaten you, could be entertaining, could have players like Jordan Matthews, and hopefully that day is right around the corner because it's getting kind of sad.
Well, 112 catches. So that was the SEC record for receptions, and third highest total receiver at 1,400 yards receiving.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, and who was his quarterback? I guess it would have been Rodgers, right? I mean, it's not like just the point being, I'm not trying to take a shot at Jordan Rodgers or anything, but it's not like he had Joe Burrow or Peyton Manning or Jay Cutler throwing him the football. You know what I mean? He was not a product of a system by any means.
Yeah, don't you be talking about Jordan. We're going to be having him in a booth here in a little bit, So.
All right, buddy. Well, hey, that's all the show we got here. We went an hour apparently in the dark. So I do apologize for that, for anybody that I screwed over on that one. But any closing thoughts for you, buddy?
No, again, this is always fun list, and everybody's different. So I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. We'll post it tomorrow on Twitter. It will be on YouTube. Unfortunately, didn't get the live feed, but put on there who we missed. Because again, everybody's list is going to be different. My list is not going to be your list, and maybe looking at some of these names, we'll have a blast from the past. But yeah, it's always great talking about that, and it's it's funny because when we were doing this list, I was also doing current players, and I think we'll save that for later. But, there's a couple of dudes that are on these rosters now. We mentioned Luther, but there is a handful of freak athletes in the SEC this year that may be on this list come next time we do it. So I'm pumped up. The coming up season, it's going to be awesome. I appreciate everybody and their support. Again, apologize for YouTube, but apparently we've been hacked. And as soon as we get off here, I'm going to get my IT hat on and I'll get to the bottom of it. That or I'm going to go get another shake down here. I don't know. Whichever happens first, Well,
I appreciate you, buddy. I appreciate each and every one of you, especially those that couldn't even watch it and are still commenting on YouTube. You're the best. We appreciate each and every one of you. We'll catch you